to sort of mimic something you guys said earlier, Fritz is like a modern day blockbuster, but instead of like expensive action set pieces, it has these really raunchy bits that try to push the boundaries as far as possible. Just ultimate edgelordery. At the time, some of the selling points was the sex, the drugs, and the violence. And while that sputter spectacle kind of gives the film this unique feeling adult edge, its satirical trappings feel equally daring at times, like pig cops, you know, with their dicks out. And those to me aged a lot better as far as entertainment value goes. Like, if people can stomach some of the gross nonsense that happens, there's some really, really funny bits in here. If you're studying animation, the history of animation, or 60s counterculture, this is a must-watch. Otherwise, I tell some people, like, watch out. It might play just as poorly to the uninitiated as, like, some shorts off the Censored 11. You gotta be careful, but if this is what you're looking for, I think more often than not, people are gonna have a good time with this.
For sure. I think you definitely have to prime the pump for it too, because there's a lot of Bakshi history to it. And, like, you know, he grew up in a Jewish ghetto as a young man. He went to an all-black school, which offered him relatively more perspective, you know, as the only white guy there, which offered him a bit more perspective. And also the fact that, as a general rule, he, employed more minorities at his studio, women and black men in particular, but also in 1977, he hired one of the first black women to work in animation, Brenda Banks. She briefly worked at the Warner studio prior, but he had no idea about that. She just walked into his studio and said, I want to make cartoons. And he just looked baffled for a moment and was like, yeah, do some tests and we'll see. And then she did tests for Wizards. She did some of the goon animation for the crowd shots, and he loved it and hired her immediately, and she stayed with the studio until its closure. So, like, it can certainly be argued that it's not his place to say these things. Like, he probably should have deferred to others, and he has problems with depicting women, but I think the satirical qualities of the film are not quite as pointed as they are in later films, but they're probably funnier than they are in later films. The gross out stuff is what it is. I can appreciate it as a boundary pushing thing, but it often runs a bit too long. But despite that, I think there's a lot of gold here. And if you want to see what this movie would have looked like if it was like what I think most people's like worst possible interpretation of it is, go watch 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat. That's basically the only merit to that film, is like it makes you appreciate the original all the more. But the original is pretty darn good and significant and definitely worth a look.
They've killed Fritz! They've killed Fritz!
I slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.